So our first presenter is Hannah Costin from the HR division, and she will be sharing with all of us, coaching us on the application process. So Hannah, take it away.
Hi, my name is Hannah. I work in the HR division of the Seattle Fire Department, and I manage the entry-level firefighter hiring process. Um, Next slide, please. So the Seattle Fire Department is a nationally recognized leader in the fire and emergency services. It's also one of the largest fire departments in the state of Washington, with an average response of 900,000 incidents per year. To keep our operations division staffed and to continue to provide service to the Seattle community, the department onboards 2 recruit classes each year of about 30 recruits. Our hiring process is highly competitive, and because of public safety standards and the number of applicants who are involved, at times it can be pretty complex. The intent of today's presentation is to familiarize you with the process and to answer any additional questions you may have about it. Next slide. The Seattle Fire Department cultivates a talented and diverse workforce by offering several employment benefits. Schedule: Seattle firefighters usually work 8 24-hour shifts a month with either 2 days or 4 days off between shifts. So this schedule provides a really great work-life balance for our members. Advancement opportunities: in addition to promotional opportunities, Seattle firefighters can also apply for a number of specialty and technical teams, including hazardous materials, technical rescue, paramedic, marine unit, and arson investigations. And all of these opportunities come with a premium pay. Starting salary: recruits start at $6,800 a month, and they receive increases at 6, 18, 30, and 42 months, and then also receive an annual wage increase as negotiated by the union. And like I said, premium pay for all of these specialty teams and other roles that you can take on in addition to your regular workload. Medical and retirement: Seattle firefighters receive a Left 2 pension, family medical and dental insurance, vacation, comp time, and sick leave. They may also take advantage of a deferred compensation plan through the city, 4 weeks of paid parental leave, tuition reimbursements, and paid military leave, and employee assistance programs. The department also has a really robust peer support team to support the members' well-being, and a critical incident stress management team to lend extra support after traumatic events. That's something that you'll hear a bit more from Kristen Cox later on. Next slide. Minimum qualifications. So in order to be hired as a Seattle Fire Department, the candidate must meet the following qualifications. They have to have a high school diploma or GED and a valid driver's license. They have to be able to communicate in English, be 18 years old at least, have a Washington State EMT certification, and meet or exceed the established standards of the hiring process. So candidates may submit an application if they're not already EMT certified, but they do have to be certified in Washington State in order to be considered for final hire. Because of the length of our hiring process, many candidates are able to complete an EMT course prior to their hire date. The department will periodically offer an in-house EMT course for conditionally offered candidates as well, but spots are limited and participation is not guaranteed, so many of our candidates prefer to submit an application and then during the process, as they are going through the hiring process, get their own EMT certification so that they're able to just slide right into the available class that we have. Candidates who are not certified in or who are certified in other states will be able to gain reciprocity in Washington State following their conditional offer. Next slide. So after submitting an application during an open application period, the candidates receive instructions on how to complete the fire team test and public safety suitability assessment through the National Testing Network. If a candidate passes all portions of the test, they'll be invited to participate in an oral board interview. The results of the assessments and the interview are combined with any applicable veteran scoring criteria and used to rank the candidates on a firefighter register. Registers are usually used to hire recruit classes for at least 2 years. And then once the register has expired, a new application period will begin. So because of the length of time between application periods, anyone who's interested in employment with the Seattle Fire Department is highly encouraged to apply during any application period that becomes available, since there won't be another opportunity to do so for several years. Sometimes people will submit an application, but they're not quite ready to join. They have military obligations or something like that. It's important to get your name on the register and under consideration, just if so that you'll have the opportunity to join during the 2 or so years that the register is in use. Next slide. So once the register is established, the process of hiring a new class takes several months. At the beginning of the process, the top 25% of the register will be invited to complete preconditional assessments. The results of these assessments will determine who is invited to participate in an employment interview and be considered for a conditional offer. Selected candidates will need to complete several post-conditional assessments prior to receiving a final offer and being placed in a recruit class. Once a class is hired, Seattle Fire Department HR will refresh the hiring list, adding names from the existing register to replace anyone who is hired off of the list, and then begin the pre-conditional assessment process over again. Hiring processes typically take 6 months from start to finish, and like I said, 4 classes are usually hired from each register. So overall, the next application period will be opening in fall of 2024. And then the register created from that application process will be published in March. So the first hiring processes from the new register that's established will begin during the summer of 2025. Next slide. Okay, a little bit more about the pre-employment process. So the first step in a hiring process is for the candidate to complete and submit an employment packet. This will include their job history, certifications, resume, and any additional materials that they wish to include. One of the reasons that we asked for this at this stage is that oftentimes candidates will have gained additional certifications or experience in the time between submitting an application and starting a hiring process. So this is just a chance to make sure we have the most updated information. Candidates at this time will be invited to complete a suitability assessment and a candidate physical ability test. The suitability assessment is a series of questionnaires which evaluate the candidate's personal history, personality style, and emotional stability. And the CPAT consists of 8 critical physical tasks, which simulate actual firefighter job duties and help determine if the candidates meet the standard of physical fitness required to perform in the fire service. So following these assessments, candidates who pass them will be selected to complete an in-person interview with a panel of Seattle firefighters. This interview will determine whether or not a candidate receives a conditional offer for the next class. In addition to the conditionally offered recruit candidates, the hiring panel will also select several alternate candidates who will be offered a position if one of the recruit candidates withdraws from the process. Following the conditional offers, candidates must complete a medical assessment, a psychological assessment, and a background check before receiving a final offer. They'll also attend a gear fitting at our services warehouse and work with our EMS coordinator to ensure that their EMS certifications meet Washington state requirements. Next slide. Once hired, all candidates must successfully complete our in-house paid recruit training program. In addition to some classroom instruction, the program includes practical training in firefighting techniques and equipment use. Seattle's 15-and-a-half-week program is known as a hands-on and drill-intensive program. Recruits are evaluated daily and must successfully complete all elements of the course in order to graduate. Following recruit school, candidates are assigned to an operations division company to complete their probationary year. Upon satisfactory completion of their first year, they receive Firefighter 2 certification and a permanent appointment as a Seattle firefighter. Next slide. Just a quick overview of the job. The operations division is the largest division of the department, spread across 5 battalions containing 33 fire stations with an on-duty staffing of 211 members per shift. One of the main responsibilities of a Seattle firefighter is to provide emergency medical services. About 80% of emergency calls received by the department are medical in nature, so all firefighters are certified to provide basic life support. In addition, our Medical One program is staffed with certified paramedics to provide advanced life support when needed. The Seattle Fire Department maintains an active fire prevention program, including regular building inspections by firefighters with each of the fire station districts. In the case of a fire emergency, firefighters identify the source of the fire, use appropriate suppression techniques, and search for and rescue victims. The conditions of a fire response include extreme heat, smoke, and working in confined spaces, all while carrying up to 100 pounds of equipment. Operations members will also respond to hazardous materials incidents and disasters when they occur. When time allows, members will also provide a wide range of community services, including blood pressure screening, fire station tours, and community outreach. Okay, next slide. Okay, so we recognize that the Seattle Fire Department's process can seem very complicated, but the HR division is always available to answer any questions you may have. One thing that I would encourage everyone on this call to do is to go to our website so they can sign up to receive a notice when the next application period begins and other relevant updates on the hiring and application process. If you go to seattleFireJobs.com and select sign up for updates from the Seattle Fire Department, you'll get put on a mailing list. I am the only person that ever sends anything to that mailing list, and all I ever send is the application period is about to open. This is when the application period opens. That's all I care about. So you won't get a bunch of spam. You won't get a bunch of things you don't want to need. You don't want to read. You'll just get notification when the application period opens, and it's really important that you get that so that you don't miss your opportunity. Our website also has a lot of information on the hiring process and training materials for candidates. And then questions can be directed by email to sfd.recruitment@seattle.gov. And if you'd like to speak to someone, you can call our headquarters during business hours to be connected with a member of the HR team. That is the end of my part of the presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions in the chat. I'll take a look now, and thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Hannah. Always very comprehensive. And just to echo what she said, the most important thing is that you stay connected with us, and that email address, and also signing up on our SeattleFireJobs.com. That is crucial to getting the most important news. And also, if you guys are social media friendly, link up with us and you can get up-to-date information. So thank you, Hannah, for that information. And the next presenter is Julie George, Senior HR Personnel, and she will be guiding and coaching us about the preparation process, how to prepare to become a Seattle firefighter. Take it away, Julie.
Hi, my name is Julie George, Senior Personnel Specialist. I'm going to share some things that I have learned over the years of working here. Next slide, please. One of the things is really plan, prepare, and practice. Like Hannah said, the process takes a while by the time we do the testing and you get on the certified register. So please, if you're really interested in the job, use that time to plan, prepare, and practice. Next slide, please. One of the things I tell people in preparing for this job is search the internet, learn as much as you possibly can about becoming a firefighter. There are tons of stuff on there. If you spent 15 minutes a day, you would really have a lot of knowledge, after a couple months. Keep all your information, you can keep information on a spreadsheet, on an Excel spreadsheet with tabs. Knock on doors, talk with as many firefighters as you can. It doesn't matter if they're in Seattle, Renton, wherever they are. Just talk to them and listen to their story of the path that they made coming to Seattle Fire or their current department that they're working for. Participate in local opportunities. King County Fire Chiefs Association has at least 3 or 4 opportunities a year that you can participate in a free event and get some networking connections that way. Also, King County Women in Fire and EMS, they do 2 programs a year. It's just another way of networking, talking to more people. I also tell people take an inventory of your skill set, your experiences. And with that inventory, create a resume. Be sure to include any volunteer work, awards that you may have received, committee work that you may have done. Provide a strong, detailed example of your previous experiences. You're competing with quite a few people, so make yourself stand out. Next slide, please. Practice the interviewing skills. Myself, I've sat across the table for about 14 years now, as being a facilitator on an interview panel. If I was to go interview again, I would have to sit down and practice. And you're practicing taking your skill set of what is on your resume and being able to cross it over and provide information to the panel to the question that you're answering. Another really big one is take a moment when you come into an interview, just take a deep breath. Everybody is extremely nervous, but answer the question. You would be surprised at how many people come into the interview and they don't necessarily answer the complete question. They're going off in left field. So if you prepare ahead of time, there's always going to be a question of why are you the best candidate for the position? Be ready to answer that. That is something that you could practice on and have that in your what I call toolbox, that it's really easy for you to answer. Be real about it. So be prepared to spend 5 minutes talking about yourself and experiences per each question. If you walk into a room, you have 30 questions on, or you have 30 minutes for the interview and you have 6 questions, be prepared to spend 5 minutes per question with actually diving into it and not just repeating yourself. Practice with a partner. If you don't have a partner, you can always practice by going to the internet, looking at entry-level firefighter interview questions, and then writing down your answer and time yourself reading your answer out loud. That will give you more time to look over on your resume and fill in some information maybe you forgot about or didn't put down. So there is a lot of opportunities to get better at this. It is a practice. And seek out feedback from others that will help you interview and see what they have to say about some of your answers. Next slide, please. Here are some things to consider as you're getting ready and you're doing the homework and practicing your interview questions. Next slide, please. Oh, we lost my next slide. So my next slide is, I'll just talk you through it here. There's a lot of things that you could do right now to prepare yourself as far as when you're competing with a bunch of more people. Don't get speeding tickets. Stay out of fights. Don't drink and drive. I mean, these are all things that when you're competing with somebody and then you have this stuff in your background, you're going to fall further behind. Pay attention to, let's see, what was the other one I was thinking of? If you have something in your background that you need to mitigate, feel free to show your growth, and that would be on your resume from the time something, that wasn't in your best that happened, show your growth by doing some volunteer work, maybe being on a committee, just be able to keep moving forward with whatever happens. Nobody has a perfect background. Other things that you could do is you could, make sure as you're going through this process that you take care of yourself, that you're eating well, that you're getting exercise, that you're being mindful, that you're being able to handle stress. It's very stressful to wait on a list for a year and a half to find out if you get the job or not. What are you doing to handle that stress and to make that stress a little bit less? Mindfulness is a great place to start. Reaching out and again, talking to people. As you're going through and waiting, there are sometimes where Hannah or the process doesn't allow us to elaborate of, you could be in this gray area, but be okay with that and still keep, I always tell people to go test with other departments as well. So you're comfortable when you're coming through a process. And that's where all the networking helps out too, of reaching out and talking to others. So as you're coming into this and you're practicing and you're getting ready, you have like a year and a half to do a lot of outreach, a lot of practice. You can always call us. We can put you in touch with a firefighter. There's a lot of things that you can do in order to be competitive. That's it.
Thank you, Julie. She has a lot of wisdom and insight there, having seen many individuals come through and become successful in the department. A lot of those tips and advices. Just FYI, this PowerPoint will be dropped in the chat at the end. So if you do, again, want to review some of this in conjunction to this YouTube recording, that'll be available for you guys afterwards. So thanks again, Julie. Next up, we have two guest speakers. First up is John Ehrenfeld. He oversees a program called Mobile Integrated Health. It's crucial to what we're doing as a Seattle Fire Department, even within the city context, how critical it is that his program affects how we come alongside our community. I won't give it away too much. So John will go over his role, his program, the impact, and maybe an insight that he has for you guys as you're pursuing this career. So John, take it away.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me okay, John?
Yes.
Great. Well, thanks. Thanks for having me. My name is John Ehrenfeld, and I'm the program manager for Mobile Integrated Health here at the Fire Department. We've been around for about 7 years or so, and MIH at the Fire Department is actually a partnership between Seattle Fire and another city department called the Human Services Department. And what we do essentially is we provide real-time and post-call outreach to a lot of the people that we are interacting with in our community who need some additional help beyond what the department can offer from EMS. So if any of you have a fire service background, the terms mobile integrated health or community paramedicine might be familiar to you. And essentially what that is bringing a level of social work and medical care to our clients who are really most in need, who are not going to be receiving it in other venues like from hospital ERs. So we serve a number of different types of clients. We serve what we call high utilizers. These are people who are frequently or recurrently calling 911 for medical issues, chronic or acute medical issues, and don't have anywhere else to turn except to the 911 system. We serve people with behavioral health conditions and substance use disorders. We serve elderly and vulnerable populations, people who have been reported to the state as experiencing abuse and neglect, and people experiencing homelessness and extreme poverty. And you know, to kind of pull back a little bit and to give you some context, if you are hired as a Seattle firefighter, approximately 80 to 85% of the calls that you will be responding to in your career will be medical. And that is just the reality of the fire service in 2023. By volume, most of your work will be providing medical care. And mobile integrated health is an opportunity to dive much deeper into that world and into the social service world. A very common refrain that we hear from firefighters in the Seattle Fire Department and from fire departments all around the region and around the country is that they are being called to things that are essentially social work needs, but that they don't necessarily have the specific training to address that. You don't get it in drill school when you're learning to be a firefighter. You don't get it in EMT school. The Mobile Integrated Health Program is where you do get that information. So we pair up firefighters in our program with experts in the field, case managers and social workers, and they go out and they engage these clients and try to bridge the gap. So as a firefighter, essentially what you are is the last safety net that we have in our society right now. When every other safety net fails, the last one that people hit at the bottom is the 911 system. So that is really what you're there for. And so very often it is because people are, you know, their house is on fire, or they've wrecked their car, or they're having a medical emergency. But equally, it's because, you know, they have, you know, the utilities in their house have been turned off and they have no food in the fridge and they're hungry, or they're outside and it's cold and it's raining, or, you know, they don't have any friends or family in town and they don't know how to deal with their medical condition. Now, as a firefighter, when you go out to deal with that, you're going to be trained to deal with the medical aspect of that. In mobile integrated health, our firefighters get an additional level of training to help refer and redirect these patients to more appropriate resources and to connect them with services. As a career path within the fire department, you know, we think it offers quite a bit. So, you know, you'll hear from other people talking about the ways that you can specialize in the fire service, whether it's becoming a paramedic or a dispatcher, joining the heavy rescue squad or the fireboat or the rescue swimmers. Mobile integrated health is sort of an additional path. And I think especially for people who are newer to the fire service, it is attractive because in SFD you can get involved in the program pretty early on in your career. We are open to anyone who's completed their probationary year, and so it's an opportunity really to dive in and start getting an additional level of training on some of these runs that you're going to be going on pretty much from day one. So it's a pretty good opportunity. We have a fantastic crew of people, and again, it's you will get to see outcomes that you don't get to see in your normal service working on a fire engine or a ladder truck. So you get to build relationships with people and members of your community. I think in a much deeper way than you would otherwise. And with my time, I can just give a very quick anecdote. We don't really have a one type of call that we go on in the Health One program, which is our co-responder unit, the units that go out in the field. But this is somewhat emblematic. We got a call from an engine that had seen a couple living in a car down in South Seattle, and they had some needs that were not medical. So our crew went out and engaged with them. And these folks were chronically homeless, had been homeless for over 10 years. And over a series of encounters, they found out that the gentleman was had a very brief military career. He had been in the Army for just a little bit of time, but he had been in the military for long enough to qualify him for some VA benefits. And through that, they were able to find him placement in a VA supported housing unit. And our two of our firefighters and our case manager went out after about 4 months and went with them as they moved into their new residence and got them inside for the first time in about 10 years. So, the calls don't always go like that, but that certainly is a good example of some of the service that we can provide. I do see a question in the chat. We actually do not use any paramedics in our program. All of the practitioners in the Mobile Integrated Health Program are at the EMT basic level, just because of the way the Medic One program is situated in Seattle. We don't have paramedics available to us in our program, so all of our folks are EMT basics. They're primarily frontline firefighters who come down and work for our program and get that extra training. We have been steadily growing. We now have typically 2 to 3 Health One units in the field, and we just recently launched a specialty unit that is focusing primarily on fentanyl and opioid disorders and overdoses. We are going to be embedding an advanced practice practitioner on our team soon, probably a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant. And so, we are, we're continuing to expand. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for growth in our program. And, certainly we'd be happy to connect with any of the firefighters working in Mobile Integrated Health to get a little bit more sort of a day in the life about kind of what that looks like. I'll put in the chat here a link just to the public-facing website of our program. But for, John or Hannah or anyone else working on this, if there's any follow-up questions that people have, I would be happy to answer them. So good luck to everyone in the process, and thanks for the opportunity to be here, John.
All right, thank you, John. Thank you for spending time with us. A lot of helpful information. I hear transferable skills through and through. Opportunities, doors open, even preparing yourself in the first couple of years as a firefighter, and even bringing your social service skills into this department. How exciting where those things can all couple together and come into fruition. So thanks, John. Next up is one of our program managers. She oversees Kristen Cox. She oversees behavioral health, peer support, all things in that realm. But the one thing that I learned from her as a colleague and a peer is organizational trauma and healing. And she has a lot of insight. So I won't give it away too much. So she'll go over the program, some of the impact, and maybe an insight for all of you guys. So Kristen, take it away.
Thanks, John, and thanks to everyone for joining us on this meeting. Really appreciate your initiative and trying to find out a little bit more about what career with Seattle Fire might be like. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Volume okay? Great. So my role is, as John mentioned, the behavioral health coordinator. And in that role, I am not in a clinical position. I am a program management and support. The idea is to acknowledge that being a first responder is often incredibly stressful. All sorts of ways that you can encounter challenges on the job. And we know that there's all sorts of outcomes that are definitely not what we want for our first responders who are putting themselves out there. We are intending to try and make sure that you have all the tools that you would need and your family has all the tools that they need to not just survive a career in fire service, but actually thrive, right? We want you to not only enjoy it, but have it be sustainable and not destroy your mental health or your physical health. That's our goal. We have a fantastic peer support team that has about 50 members. So in a department of about 1,000, give or take, we have 50 people who are volunteers that have signed up to learn a little bit more about psychological first aid and providing support to their colleagues. And that is something that people do because they care about not only their own resilience and thriving during their career, but they care about their colleagues that they work side by side with. Often I will hear people say in the fire department that it's a family. We are a family. And good, bad, and ugly. For some of us, family doesn't necessarily mean as pleasant an experience as others. But there are things about that encourage people to support each other. When you encounter a traumatic incident in the line of duty, which happens regularly if you are a Seattle firefighter, we want you to have the knowledge, the tools, and the support mechanisms and the services to get through that in a way that feels like it's going to help you grow from that instead of get stuck or kind of perseverate and, as we say, circle the drain, right? In order to do that, we're trying to push information out about how people can support their own resilience, what they can do to build their support networks, and then we're making sure that people know how to connect with resources, both professional resources and also our peer support resources. One of the things that is a beautiful thing that's changed in the last 20 years of first responder work is that the state has actually created a specific kind of confidentiality just for peer support people that are trained and designated by their departments. That means that our firefighters and our employees can talk to a designated peer support member completely confidential. It is the same kind of privileged communication that happens with a lawyer. And we have that because we want to reduce the stigma about people reaching out and getting support early on before they hit a crisis stage. Maybe when they just need some information or somebody to listen or maybe a little tiny bit of guidance. We want to make sure that people are getting what they need. The impact of the program has been that people are eager to reach out. Our peer support folks are all in. They're available 24/7. And we have people constantly connecting with them and asking for advice, asking for resources, or even asking how to get professional help. Let's see. I think that's one of the things that we've just started over the last couple of years is two things that are pretty innovative. Number one is we have a couple peer support teams that have canines attached to them as therapy dogs. Believe me, they are super popular. Everybody wants a visit from the dogs. And so we will deploy the dogs with their handlers that are trained to do psychological first aid. Occasionally for mutual aid or community events, but most often for something that's happened within the fire department when a crew just needs an extra little bump to get them through a tough situation. We also have some high stress units that have particularly stressful jobs within the fire department, like our dispatchers or our integrated mental health, like John was describing. And we love to have the dogs just do what we call kind of a morale visit also with them, just to keep them up and running. That's one program. And the other program is we've started a mindful performance resilience program, which is based on some research out of in a program out of the University of California, San Diego. How you can use mental performance techniques similar to sports teams and Olympic athletes and the Navy SEALs. How can you use those resilience skills to actually perform better at your job? But not only that, we're hearing that the impact of that is not just on their ability to have better situational awareness, better response time, less perseveration or rumination, big impact on their family lives as well. How can working these strange hours, seeing the things that you see, not have an impact on your family? Well, being intentional about communicating with your family and mindful about that and having the skill sets to do that. So if I would just share an insight, it would be that this job offers you the opportunity to do amazing things with amazing people, and sometimes extremely stressful and traumatic. You probably will see things that your friends that don't do first responder work or your family will never see and probably wouldn't want to see. And there's lots of things that you can't unsee or unexperience. And at the same time, it also gives you opportunity to be there with people in their most vulnerable moments and be able to help. Some action that you can take to help relieve people's suffering. I know that people who want to become a firefighter or join the first responder career path are by nature compassionate people. They do it because they want to help people. And I find that incredibly rewarding for me to be able to support first responders and their families who choose this kind of career. One thing I would say is often as compassionate people, you have a tendency to put everyone else first, and providing compassion to all of the people in your lives, including the people that you encounter on the street in the line of duty, and your family and your friends and everyone else. Your own name gets left off that list occasionally. And the way to really thrive throughout this career and be as resilient as possible is to make sure that you don't drop off that list and that you show yourself the same compassion that you would show anyone else, especially those you care about. And we hope that we're able to give you the tools and the coaching to be able to do that effectively. So I'll be around for a little while and answer any questions that pop up in the chat. Happy to also add my email to the list if you have questions about what we do and how we do it. John, anything else you want me to cover?
I think you did a fabulous job. Thank you for the wealth of information. I love the part where you said not just to go through things, but to thrive. That sticks with me, and that community support that all of us need. So thank you so much for that segment. Okay, guys, to the meat, the central piece to all of this, we now get to hear from our Seattle firefighters. So first up is firefighter Joshua Woods. He will share with all of us a little bit of his background, what helped him, what motivated him to get into Seattle Fire Department, and what are some few things that he likes or loves about his job, and what would be that one or two advice that he has for you guys. So Firefighter Woods, take it away.
All right. First and foremost, thank you for allowing me to be here. Like, I get super interested and excited when these things come up through email or word of mouth, just because, I'm super excited and passionate about the job. And, you guys know that I'm always doing something, whether it's a recruiting aspect of it, interviews, helping with the recruits, and whatever step of the process to be engaged in this kind of stuff, because I think it's cool. And ultimately, I was always taught to try to make the department or leave the department better than when I found it. So it's awesome to have this experience. I think everybody's got like this blur filter behind them, and me, I don't. So I'm happy I made my bed, bro, because I'm like, yeah, this is terrible. And I'm hoping no one can see my faces while everybody else was talking, because yeah, I wear my expressions on my face, but it's all good. But seriously, first and foremost, what I did before I actually got hired as a Seattle firefighter. So I lived in Arizona for 13 years, originally from Ohio. So I saw someone said that they're from Arizona. And again, I lived there for 13 years and I got tired of the desert. When I lived there, I worked at a company called GoDaddy. So I built websites, sold domain names. I worked security for numerous clubs down there. I was a bartender, and I was actually a firefighter as well for the city of Phoenix. And then I decided I want to get out the desert and wanted something different. And one of my guys down there suggested Seattle, and I figured, of course, well, why not? It's green. I love the topography. I had never been to Seattle, but I knew a lot about it and heard a lot about it. So, I applied, and it worked out well. I'm blessed to be here. The cool thing is man, first and foremost, what I love about this department, what I'll say, because this is what's most important for me is, every day is different, right? And I understand that, everybody's version of an emergency is different. We're counselors, we're brothers, sisters, fathers, uncles, aunts, teachers, mentors, heroes to others, villains to other people. Like we're literally anything and everything to everyone. So understanding that, and every day you come in, it's going to be different, and you're wearing a different hat. And it's like a second family. I moved up here and didn't know anyone. It's just me and the dog, right? And as soon as I got here, especially hired within the department, I heard there was this thing called the Seattle Freeze, but I didn't experience it because everybody just welcomed me with open arms, right? Which was awesome. And it was right before COVID, which, is the complete opposite of this warming, welcoming feeling. Everybody's like 6 feet. Here, everybody's still like, hey, look, we're family. We'll get through this together, which was awesome, right? So I think that was pretty cool. I would say that, if I had to give some advice as far as, people that are interested in this department, first and foremost, regardless of what you're doing now and what you've done in the past, as far as like your employment history, there's some way that can apply to the job, right? Whether it's you being a barista, whether it's you being an electrician, of course, if you know another language, that's fantastic, right? Nursing, of course, that, that falls within this realm. But pretty much anything and everything, there's some kind of way to relate that to what we do. And that's just another tool in the toolbox. I would actually say if you do and you are interested in becoming a first responder, primarily firefighter, then I would say cast a wide net. I believe someone said it earlier that, not just applying for this department, but for applying for multiple, right? Because a lot of times people just don't get it right because the way this process is with interviewing and interacting and answering questions and just the job in general is completely different than what you experience from other jobs that you may have had. And also with that, I would say ask a lot of questions. And if you're asking about being a firefighter, we can't talk enough about it. Like we love the job, and it's at least 10 times cooler on the inside than what you see on the outside. Now, I wouldn't say go watch episodes of, Station 19. Like I wouldn't do that. No disrespect, but it's so much cooler than what you're seeing there, right? But also doing the homework as well. Like we get flattered when we see someone come in and yes, they're interested in the job, but they do the homework, right? They know that, we have 33 stations, or at least they know the difference between an engine and a truck, right? I want a truck, so I kind of take a little personal, but having a little bit of that knowledge goes a long way, right? It shows that we're not just wasting our time, which is important, right? Because we do a lot, right? Even if we're not necessarily on a call, we're doing things to make sure that we're bettering ourselves, right? Because complacency isn't something in our repertoire, right? I would say invest the time in yourself, and I mean not in just the job itself, but like throughout the process, right? Making sure you stay hydrated, you physically fit, all those things, because especially if it works out and you do apply and you do get into the academy, you don't use the academy as a time to get fit. You know what I mean? You want to be fit before that. And yeah, I'm trying to hold back because I don't want to give too much stuff because there's so much I can talk about, especially, when it comes to like interviewing and stuff to help prepare yourself for those different things. Like it's a lot of information I want to share. because I want people to be able to really show themselves and tell who they are and tell their story and things like that, which is where a lot of people fall short because they just don't know how to do those things, you know? So yeah, anything else you want me to cover in the meantime?
Thank you. Did stellar job. Thank you so much. We'll get to know you a little more during the breakout group. A lot of
Okay.
what you have shared, you can kind of expound on that. Next up, we have firefighter Caesar Cipher, and he'll share with us a bit of his story, what helped him, what motivated him to get in, what are a few things that he likes or loves about the department, and if he has kind of an advice for all of you guys. So go ahead, take it away.
All right. How's my audio? Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
All right, perfect. So I've been in about 8 years now. Prior to the fire department, I was working as a professional arborist for about 15 years. I enjoyed the work, but I kind of felt that I was working too much for, I was too much of a business, and I wanted something that I felt was more impactful. I spoke to a former coworker who'd gotten into the Seattle Fire Department, and as he was going through the process, and he was explaining the job to me and how much it was just showing up for people when they were having just their absolute worst days. And the only reason you ever show up is to make things better. You leave every situation better than where you found it. That appealed to me, and so I spoke with him. I spoke with others of his recent classmates. I did station visits, and I learned as much about the job as I could, and decided absolutely that was what I wanted. That was something that I had been really kind of questing for. So I dedicated myself to it completely. I did start the testing process. Like we've heard before, it is a difficult process. It can be a long process, and the importance of not just focusing on a single department, but actually like fully engaging yourself in the hiring process, applying for different departments and moving toward that. It's extremely valuable. I signed on as a volunteer in my hometown, and fortunately, I got hired by Seattle rather quickly. At 38, I was the oldest person in my recruit school. I noticed in the chat earlier somebody had some questions about that, and even at that time, that was not the oldest recruit that they had in recent years. So people like into their 40s have been hired, as well as people like straight out of high school. I know we have 18-year-olds who have come through the process. I felt that in my case, being a little bit older, having a longer work history, is all of those skills, things that I developed in that 15 years of my previous job and career were extremely valuable. But it's not just limited to somebody working in a trade. Is having experience with, of course, healthcare would be phenomenal. But somebody who works customer service, is so much of what we do is you are forward facing, you are interacting with the public, and often you're interacting with the public when they are extremely stressed. So those skills of being able to deal with somebody when they are not having their best day, and being able to still provide them with what you can offer and what they need. And sometimes it's just giving them direction to the correct resources, but other times it's far more impactful. Those skills are extremely valuable, and that's often overlooked. I've put myself in a position where I've been able to be to assist on some of the hiring panels. I liked being on the other side of the table, where I could see people coming in. And something that I have noticed in a lot of the process is that a lot of people do not really give a chance to expound on the skills. They think it's like, I just need to have prior fire experience, I need to have medical experience. But it's like, all of your skills can be valuable, and you just really need to understand that you do have something to offer, and you really need to think about that, and you need to think about the massive variety of calls that we go on, and the types of problems people have. And there's absolutely things that you have to offer that can be valuable, and the people that are interviewing you are going to understand that. You just have to know to bring that up. I just, as Kristen had spoken of before, I recently joined into the peer support team. I was rather happy to get involved in that. And it kind of stings back to that other thing, is we show up to situations not knowing exactly what we're going to get into, and we take all the tools at our disposal and we work to make that situation better. So we're always shooting for a positive outcome. And I didn't like the concept of being able to watch some of my crewmates or people that I know, people that I work with, being in pain. and not being able to offer them some form of assistance. And so just as being able to offer medical assistance and fire assistance and pull people out of damaged cars, all of that is exciting. But the importance of being able to be there for the people who are there for me was extremely important to me. And so thankfully I was able to get involved in the peer support team and make myself available to my peers. So it's not just the populace, it's the department as a whole. It's been amazing for me. It's been amazing for my family. And again, as Josh said, being on a truck, I do take it a little personally when somebody can't tell the difference between an engine and a truck. So before your interviews, definitely be able to tell the difference between those two. Is there anything else you'd like me to cover?
I think that was amazing. Thank you, Firefighter Cypher. I keep hearing the echoing statement today throughout all of our presenters: transferable skills. Continue to build up and acquire where you're at. And as you focus on that, it's kind of a building blocks approach. It's a strength-based approach. So that's very encouraging for me to hear. So thank you so much. So for the next about 10, 15 minutes, we're just going to go a little bit further, and you guys are going to split into breakout rooms with our firefighters. And then our HR senior personnel will be accompanying each of the rooms to answer further questions. So they will lead the sessions. Just ask away whatever questions you've had and just kind of have a dialogue together. So David, send us to our groups. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. It looks like time flew pretty fast. We're kind of at the finish line here. I hope all of this was not only engaging, but it sparks a little bit of passion, a motivation that will carry you through. But the two advice, me having gone through the ringer myself almost 2 decades ago, when I got accepted into the fire department, was a volunteer, worked in the EMS world. I needed the collective. I needed the people, the support system around me, not just to push me, just to walk with me through challenges, through the seasons where growth points and growth patterns needed to be implemented in my life. And so I'm grateful for kind of that maturation period, even for me, just to pass that on to you guys. I hope this was helpful. A couple of things before we end. There will be another version of this before next year's application window. That's going to open up in October of 2024, hopefully around that time. So be in the queue. And David, the PIO, you got something there for next weekend?
Yes. Our deadline for an upcoming King County Diversity and Recruitment Workshop to register is on December 10. It's on December 16 at Shoreline Community College, and I'm going to put the link for registering in the chat right now.
Okay. And that's a way to connect with different fire departments in person, similar to this, but more in the flesh. And just like these firefighters recommended, to continue to be in that process, be in that mindset. Let's go ahead and put the PowerPoint in the chat so you guys can download it to your phone. And again, you can review all of this, our YouTube channel, Seattle Fire. I think Hannah put it in the chat. Connect with us, connect with our social media, and email us any questions you have in following, and we will respond to you in a timely manner. And thank you so much for spending this past hour with us. Have a happy holidays, and we'll connect with you soon. Talk to you soon. Take care.